Hello and welcome to my channel. And welcome to a little series I like to do here titled, Does Anyone Still Care About This? This is a series where I tend to weigh in on topics in pop culture that may have passed their expiration date when it comes to how much people are talking about them online and tuning into information about these specific topics. Most of the time, the answer is no, we do not still care about this, but some of the time people do actually still care about what I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about this particular topic today, or these topics, because number one, I think it's just like super interesting. I just think it says so much about a false narrative that's often sold to women in my position. So single Black American women. And when I say Black American women, I mean women who are not first generation Americans. We have been here for many years. More than likely, we can trace our lineage to a specific plantation, if you know what I'm saying. We've been here, we were born and raised here. We say that our culture is African-American culture, even though some people online would say that doesn't exist. It does very much exist. And I think that a lot of times our narrative of singlehood is different than women who might have our same skin color, but are not, their families are not, don't have the same history in the United States that we do. I think culturally things can be different. I think expectations can be different. So it's always interesting to me then when a woman in my position is sold this idea that the answer to her issues, especially if she's having dating problems, is to date a man who is coming from another country. I know for me specifically, a lot of the times what is told to me is I need to date someone who is coming directly from Africa. I cannot tell you the amount of times. In fact, this video right here, I pulled this video, deleted it completely from YouTube, and it is a video that I made talking about Selena Gomez's birth chart and my birth chart. And I made it at the beginning of my journey here on YouTube. And you know, the other week or last week when I made my video about pretty privilege, and I said it was a video that pretty much set me apart from the very beginning. I don't think videos like this helped. While I don't disagree with my sentiments and everything I said in there was accurate, the unhingedness, the amount of chap that was on my lips, the unhingedness, it was wild. It was like I was almost feral in that video. So that is one of my only ones that I've pulled down that hasn't been like flagged for copyright or something, because I had some at the beginning that were flagged for copyright that I've pulled, but this particular video, I have pulled it down. And in the video, like I said, I was comparing my dating situation to Selena's, who at the time had said that she was cursed. And I was saying that, yeah, like it can feel like that if your birth chart looks like ABCD. And in the comments, overwhelmingly, I mean, yeah, there were people who were like, you know, no, because astrology is not real, so don't say that, and so on and so forth. But there were a lot of people who said, nope, the issue is not your birth chart. The issue is that you don't live in Africa. The issue is that you don't date African men. You need an African man. An African man is the answer to all of your problems. And I just raised an eyebrow at that, because that's not what I've observed. Now, no shade at all. I'm not trying to add to the diaspora wars that I see exploding all over social media all the time. I personally am very attracted to African men, and I mean men who come here and they immigrate to the United States. I think a lot of the professional accomplishments, a lot of the men are just beautiful. There's a lot of things they have going for them that are extremely attractive. But I have noticed certain social practices that would make me question why anyone would consider that to be an automatic answer for somebody in my position. And in fact, when I listen to my African friends that actually care about me, that is not their take at all. They don't feel that way at all. And I'm saying all this to say, there was recently a young man who was competing on a dating show, and his name was S.K, and he's competing on the show Love is Blind. Now, here's the thing about me and dating shows, and people ask me about dating shows all the time. Would I ever go on one? Do I watch them? First of all, I don't like watching people struggle with dating, because for me, that's like a crime scene investigator going home and watching Law and Order. Like, I'm already in the trenches, so watching people in the trenches is just like, it's hard. it's hard for me to do. Even when the dating show has a premise that I might really like there's one on Amazon that was all about astrology, which I thought the premise was so cool. I still might watch that one. I am not likely to turn on dating content for entertainment. And even though I might produce it, and I also know that it would probably be really good for my channel if I did talk about those types of shows, because like clearly I would have an opinion on them. And I have actually been asked by patrons to talk about, you know, some dating shows. So now I'm like, okay, I gotta watch them. But I'm not a dating show fan. You will not catch me watching Bachelor, Bachelorette, Married at First Sight, Black Love, Love is Blind, like none of those. I just don't like to see people having a hard time finding love because that's a reality that I live. And so I never tuned in. I did not watch the show. I did not really know anything about it. I think with every dating show though, like if the season is good and the storyline is good, people tend to really start talking about the characters outside of the show. And in particular this season, there was a girl named Raven on there. And people were talking about her because of her like antics during like some of the first interviews, how she was like working out while this guy was trying to talk to her. She just seemed like a very interesting type of person. And I saw some people, you know, talking about her over on TikTok. So I was like, okay, well, Raven meets up with SK. And Raven and SK are dating. And, you know, they eventually get to, I guess if there's a point in the show where people are asked if they want to get married after they've gone through all of this. And Raven says, I do. And SK says, I do not. And they decide to keep dating after that, which I think I would be so embarrassed that that would just be the end. Well, around this time, more things started coming up on social media, specifically about SK. And specifically, they were women who were saying, hey, he's not single. I dated him. This one girl put out a video and she said, I dated him. And she's since had to delete her account, or she's decided to delete her social media. And then there was another woman who was like, no, this was my whole man. And she posted videos and she posted, you know, evidence. She had receipts. And what ended up coming out of this was a lot of Nigerian women, because SK was Nigerian, a lot of Nigerian women saying, he's a Nigerian man. Why are we surprised that he was trying to have more than one woman at once? Now, I'm an outsider. I am not inside of the culture at all. I am not, like I said, I'm not connected to immigrant culture at all in any way. My experience as a Black American has been a very Black American experience. However, there are some things that I have observed, and that is one of them. You do have certain cultures where the men unabashedly practice polyamory. Having more than one wife, having more than one girlfriend, having more than one mistress is something they do. It is something that is accepted, and it is something that is known. And sometimes it's done publicly, like everybody knows it and it's fine, and sometimes it's done in private. And so when SK was revealed to be a cheater or a philanderer, a lot of women who share his culture were like, why are we surprised? Why are we surprised? And I think this is it. We're surprised because, you know, whenever you have a dating show that comes out of America, it's obviously going to be have a very American soul to it. And no matter who's casted or put on the show, it's going to have a very American soul. And it's going to have a particular American soul, which tends to be, I mean, no matter what else is happening on the show, the soul of it tends to be very white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, which means you date, you need to get married. That's what we're doing here. And well, that's what it means to me. And so when you cast people from different cultures and you put them all in one place, but you try and push them all towards this singular goal, you're going to have different outcomes, because if people are coming from a culture where polyamory is practiced, and I think SK said he came from a polyamorous household, they're not going to fall into this extremely American view of relationships and how relationships should play out. And I want to say, I don't believe, and from what I was seeing online and from what I've experienced in my life, it's not every person that comes from that culture. It's not every Nigerian person who practices polyamory. It's not even every Nigerian man. But I think it happens enough to where what happened to SK was not a surprise to women that come from his culture. And it just made me think about the fact that when I was making my content in the beginning of my journey, there were so many people who said to me, the only reason why you're struggling is because you don't date an African man. An African man would, you know, you wouldn't have to worry. And I was just like, you know what, why do we sell, we do it a lot to Black American women. We sell them this narrative where they're problems would only be answered if they would only try this kind of man, whether it's interracial dating, whether it's, dating someone who may be coming from a different culture. Your issue is just you're looking at the wrong type of men. But men can be just terrible everywhere. They really can. And I actually have experience with friends who were Nigerian friends who have dads who left the family and went and started another family back in Nigeria. They came into America, they left, they went and started another family. I knew a girl who, she married a guy, and after knowing him for like 3 weeks, and she was so in love, but then he ended up letting her know, I'm only with you because I want citizenship. That's a story that I'm actually aware of. And I know a little bit, to where I was almost offended at the fact that people were offering that up so quickly and so often without paying attention to the fact that, like, that's not an answer for every single person. You definitely have to be somebody who would be open to a lot of different things. I think they hear a Black woman saying like, oh, dating is hard. And so they're like, oh, well, we know a place where men are more likely to find you attractive. And I think that's what it was with me. They were just saying like, hey, these men would find you attractive, which I don't doubt. But I do want to say the woman that SK was actually dating was not a Black woman. I do want to say that. But anyway, I thought this all was very interesting because I see this kind of thing thrown at Black women, American Black women all the time. Well, this is the reason why you don't have this, because you won't consider A, B, C, D, as if other cultures of men, as if other realities don't have their own special set of distinct issues. And I think in situations like this, if you're gonna cast people that come from different cultures, talk to people from within those cultures. Like, would it be a good idea? I think if you had a Nigerian woman on the panel at Love is Blind, telling him, oh, hey, I just sat in for his interview, and he's going to make good TV, but he's not going to make a good a good candidate for this show, because more than likely he has other romantic options. And you need to make sure whoever matches with him knows that about him, because this is a part of the culture. This can happen. And so I think going forward, when it comes to casting dating shows, people have absolutely got to be more eyes wide open about that. Like, yes, we're all human and we're coming in to have this experience, but what romance and love can look like in your culture is not necessarily the same as what it looks like over here. And so we need to be smarter about, if our goal is to get people to a marriage where it's just two people at the end of the show, then we need to bring people on the show who have those same desires. So anyway, I thought it was funny, the fallout from that situation. I hope that the young women who were involved with SK heal over time. And I will forever, if somebody ever tells me again, well, the reason why you're showing you need an African man, I will say, okay, well, that's not what, no, don't tell me that it's a specific man from a specific culture, because all men can be terrible. And please be aware that when you're telling somebody that, you need to be responsible for what might happen should she take your advice. But anyway, moving on. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Julia Fox. So if you don't know who Julia Fox is, then you probably missed the beginning of the year. More than likely, you were not paying attention to what was going on with Kanye West and his shenanigans at the beginning of the year. If you need a refresher, here it goes. At the beginning of this year, early 2022, Kanye was beginning to have what would turn out to be a year-long series of meltdowns and breakdowns on social media. He had already done, like, over Thanksgiving break 2021, he had done like a full, please bring my family back, with the whole choir thing at the Sunday service and that whole Thanksgiving like prayer that he put out. It was beautiful. But at the time, Kim really was done with the situation. And so, she did not go back to him. We got to the spring the early winter, so January. And there were issues there with him feeling like he wasn't invited to Chicago's birthday party, even though it later came out that he said he wanted to have his own party, and they wanted to keep them separate. And then at the last minute, I don't know where the party is, so there was that. There was issues with North being on TikTok, and he was very big about that and posting photos of North all over his social media and how Kim was letting his child march on to the devil. I don't know what happened with that, but I do know that North is consistently making TikToks, and they are the most unhinged thing. And they're also so funny, and I watch every one of them, and I follow that account, so whatever. And then there were allegations of, he started to attack Pete Davidson. He was calling him, at this point, he was calling him Skeet Davidson. And there were music videos and things coming out where he depicted himself like murdering Pete or beating him up to, where he was brutally injured. And so there was a lot going on between January and February with Kanye back last year. Then I think eventually people got through to him and he was like, okay, this isn't right. But we all know that he continued to pop up on social media for a while, doing and saying various things. And eventually he made the anti-Semitic comments that he made. And we all saw the fallout from that. So during that time, January, February, Kanye starts dating a young woman named Julia Fox. And I knew who Julia Fox was just because she had gotten pregnant like maybe a year before or something. And I had seen like, I guess TMZ or, a random celebrity gossip site had talked about it. I had gone to just like check out and see who she was. And I was like, oh, she looks beautiful. Like, these are really nice photos. Apparently this is a model or something. There's so many models and people that do creative work. There's so many people that have connections all over the industry that you literally never hear about. And I was like, oh, this is one of them. Okay, cool. So I just went about my business and kind of forgot about her. Well, around New Year's Eve, around January, she starts dating Kanye West. And it's not just like his normal girlfriends that he has, which, by the way, I talked about this a little bit over on Patreon because I couldn't understand why a woman would date Kanye West right now. I couldn't understand what the draw was, why you would want to even be involved in that, why you want to be close to that. And there is a content creator on TikTok called NT Lawyer, and I'm going to tag his account below because he claims to have behind the scenes knowledge of ABCD. And he has a lot of great stories about the entertainment industry. But a patron let me know about something called yachting, where basically like attractive models are, I don't want to say sold, but they are given money, they're given experiences, they're given so that they can be seen with actors and, musicians and so on and so forth. So there really is, like, we heard about this a lot back in the day with Tom Cruise and how he would audition girlfriends. Well, it's really something that actually happens according to this NT Lawyer guy. I look at the situation and I'm like, oh gosh, how is he still meeting these women and they're getting into relationships with him? It's really, if he has the money, it's women who are looking for, they have a fee, they have what they require to be in this contract. And it's like a business arrangement, and it's not actually and I think sometimes relationships can come out of it. I don't know too much about it, but basically NT Lawyer claimed that Julia Fox was just yachting with Kanye. Like, it wasn't real, but Julia was selling it. I think of all of the relationships that he's been in with any of these women since Kim, Julia and him were like on a magazine cover, or they had like a magazine spread. When she talked about him, she was like, oh, it just feels so good to finally be taken care of, to not have to, I've always had to get my own things and do things for myself, but he's the type of person who'll really take care of me, and it's just so nice. And I think for her birthday, he like got her and her friends like baby Birkin bag. Like, it looked like a legitimate relationship. And eventually things got so bad, with Kanye's comments and things he was saying, that Julia did take her space. She was asked at the time when everything was going on, how can you be with, like, what are you thinking? And she was like, that's that situation. We don't even talk about that. She was very defensive of their union. So after this ends, Julia doesn't go away. She has little sound bites and things that go viral on TikTok. I think there was one, I was Josh Safdie's muse and Uncut Gems. She said that people start to really pick up on her interesting fashion choices. She wears her eyeliner in really funky little ways. And slowly but surely, she becomes her own pop culture like character. Eventually she jumps on TikTok, and she starts making content and, you know, jumping into different like culture wars and giving her opinion. That's the way to grow on there, by the way. If you're not a person who dances or is like a soft life vlog girly, a way to grow on TikTok is to jump in on the culture wars. We'll grow an audience that way. I refuse. So, but Julia started doing that and started to also tell her own stories from like Hollywood and, you know, give her ideas about like dating and give background info about her life and like events she would go to, stuff like that. And she started to really, really cultivate an audience. I think she's got like 1 million followers on there, which is every celebrity doesn't have that. I even started following her. I was like, she's interesting. I'm okay. A couple days ago though, Julia gets taken to task by a TikTok user. And this has happened a lot. And I think it's because people on TikTok, the youths tend to be very self-righteous, and they tend to be like, yeah, we can enjoy you, but we'll never forget what you said or what you did. And they tend to really take that and put that in your face. And I think if you're a person who's using the internet nowadays, you have to be ready for that kind of like hot criticism, because it's the internet right now. That's what people do. They will enjoy your content, they'll take it in, but they're always ready and kind of looking for their moment to also criticize. That's just how it is, which is unfortunate. But it's a reality. So anyway, so Julia starts getting people they start asking her, you know, hey, you're making all these cute little comments and you have so much to say about women and feminism and you know, being independent, doing whatever, but you dated. Well, I'll just show you a screen grab here of the last comment that she received. And man, when I tell you, her response to this was so bad. It was so bad. And here's how I feel. I feel like any woman who associates herself with him after what he did to Kim, and I don't care, you know, if people don't like her, what he was doing to her was frightening, and it was horrible, and it was harassment. I don't care if people think she deserves it because she appropriated culture. She only appropriated because she was dating a man who required that, who wanted to see a big butt and cornrows. I think somebody said there are these men who love these features of Black women, but they don't want a Black woman, so they end up building these Frankensteins. And Kim was Kanye's Frankenstein. So you cannot be mad at her without being mad at him. You can't be mad at any of the Kardashians without being upset at the Black men who gave them access to the culture and told them that that's how they preferred them, right? That's just how I feel. But let's move on. So I don't think it's right at all for any woman to associate themselves with him. But after the yachting thing was explained to me, I was like, well, it wasn't even a real relationship. I was ready to let it go. Julia, though, she gets up there and she says, it was a lie. I feel like it was a lie. She says basically she dated him because he was going so hard on Kim, and she'd known Kim for years. She used to have a fashion line. Julia used to have a fashion line, and Kim like sold her clothes in her Dash boutique like the family did. So she saw what was happening to Kim, and she thought of herself as maybe she could be like his savior. She could come in and they could have their thing, and it would help the situation. And she basically then says she didn't see any of that behavior within their own relationship. So she tried to block it out, which people were like, oh, so that really sounds like he's nice to me, so I wasn't worried about it. Cool. And I mean, she was fighting for her life in those comments. She made another follow-up video. And normally Julia posts like maybe 2 or 3 times a day. I haven't seen her post since she made her last follow-up video, but by the time this video airs, she could have posted. But she made another follow-up video and she said, hey, look, you know, this is a lot of misogyny. You know, it's not fair that we attack women like this. She said, if we got on every woman, for dating men who were misogynistic and hateful, there would be no more men to date. You know, I can't say I agree with that. I definitely don't agree that it was the right time then to make that statement. But I find this whole thing so interesting because it really is like the life cycle of the internet. You know, you never know when something that you did in the past, something that you said, something that didn't rub people right is going to come back and like haunt you. And if I was her, especially because of the situation, I mean, it really is the wackiest thing in the world for her to have started dating him at that time, because he was really like spinning. There was another girl he dated where it made a little bit more sense, because he was like, actually no, any woman that dates him, any woman. Yeah. But when she started dating him at that time, it was just like, it was very random. It was very weird. And if I was her, what I would have said is, I do not disagree with you. And I understand if you have a problem with me because of how you viewed the situation and really how it was. But honestly, I'm a human being, and I was excited about dating a guy who I knew was a visionary and who was an artist. And I thought maybe he was just having a bad time. And we did have a genuine connection. And I did really like him. But eventually I saw that he wasn't just having a bad time. There was nothing I could do to help him. And as soon as I realized that that situation was not for me, I left. And that is kind of what she said. She just never took full accountability. Well, actually, no, she did. She did at the end of her video. Here, I'll play it.
Okay, since I was just gonna write about it in my book and then have y'all buy it, but I'll just tell you guys for free. First of all, the man was being normal around me. And not only that, but the Kardashians, when I had a fashion line 10 years ago, they actually bought our clothes and sold them in their stores. And so I've always had like, like a love for Kim, especially, and like even Courtney, especially, like all of them pretty much. But no, like the big three, Chloe, Kim, Courtney, those are my girls. Anyway, so by the time me and him got together, it was like he hadn't been doing anything, like out there yet. The only thing he had done was change the name in the song and said like, "Come back to me, Kimberly." That was like really the only thing when we met. But I remember just being like, oh, he was texting me. I like wasn't really answering. I was like, I don't really want to like hook up with a celebrity again. Like nothing, you know what I mean? Nothing ever comes of it. It's like, they're kind of boring. Like they're not what you think they're going to be like. But he kept going and going, and he was like, "You have bad text etiquette." And then I was like, "Oh my God, Kanye's yelling at me. Like, what do I do?" But then I had this thought, and I was like, "Oh my God, maybe I can get him off Kim's case. Like, maybe I can distract him, like, just get him to like me." And I knew, I was like, if anyone can do it, it's me, because when I set my mind to something, I do it. And I will say that month that we spent together, he wasn't on Twitter, first of all. He wasn't on any forms of social media. He didn't even talk about his relationship. We only really talked about clothes and like weird ideas and plans for the future and our hopes and dreams for childhood and education. And like, it was really beautiful, guys. The moment he started tweeting, I was out. And that's the thing. It's like, the media reported on our relationship ending like a week after it happened or something. So during that week, I think you guys all thought we were together, but we weren't. I'd already been like, dude, I'm not going to stick around for this shit. And also I realized pretty quickly that he wasn't going to take my help. I was like, I want to help him. I sounded almost as dumb as you guys, saying that I should have done something to stop him from saying, like, what? But anyway, I was delusional. I thought I could help him. Anyway, it didn't work. And now we're here. But that being said, really deeply respect the man as an artist. I don't want to shit on that. I don't want to reduce his whole career to his really bad moments, But that being said, I stand with the Jewish community. Period.
So yeah, she did basically say what I just said. I do think though that she should have gotten to that part. The internet loves accountability. That's something that I've learned. People love you just to start off with, "Hey, I suck. I made a mistake. Can we move on, please?" If you can't move on, unfollow me. Like, you gotta just do that first. Like, you can't spin some wild yarn about, "Oh, I love Kim and I just didn't want to see her hurt anymore." Girl, you ain't caring about Kim. Like, you can't, you can't be wrestling with spider webs of a narrative that you're trying to piece together. You gotta just kind of start off with what people want to hear, which is an apology. Because I'm looking through the comments and consistently, and I see this a lot, people were like, "She didn't apologize, but she didn't say she was sorry. She didn't apologize." And my whole thing was, why do you need that so badly? But I think that's part of parasocial relationships. Like people need to know they can really jump in bed with you. They need to know they can really support you. And when they see that you have been associated with somebody who is so hateful, who's anti-Semitic, who's misogynistic, all these things, they need to feel like you truly understand that what you did was deplorable. And while I don't think it's right to hold her accountable for his actions, Kanye doesn't jump on social media and ask to be your friend. He doesn't get on camera and make videos from his bed. He's not asking for the same relationship from his fans as Julia is asking. And so the more intimate you want to be with your audience, the more you need to, the more you run the risk of being knocked off your high horse when people detect any kind of immorality within you. Because I think no matter how like open-minded we want to be and allowing, I think people have very clear rules about what is black and white, especially like the younger they tend to be. And the TikTok audience tends to be a lot younger. And so once they see that you stepped out of those black and white, like that good versus evil, the bad versus good, the kind versus whatever, once you've stepped out of that black and white and you're in this weird shade of gray, you need to be judged. We need to figure out what we can do to get you back on either side. I don't think people like being confused about who you are when you're presenting yourself online. So yeah, that's something I noticed with that. And I also want to say there were some people in her comments that were like, oh, well, you should ask black women, you know, how they feel. They've told you how to feel about this. And I think that's interesting because no, we didn't. Black people in general did not tell anybody how to feel about Kanye. When Kanye made his anti-Semitic comments, the entire Jewish community was like, no, 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 no. But even when he said the things he said about black women, when he treated Amber Rose the way he treated Amber Rose, okay, let's take it all the way back. People kept going to his concerts, kept supporting him. When he started doing the things he was doing to Kim, Black people were the last people to say, oh, he needs to chill. I mean, it was a war online. I remember between people who were like, no, Kanye's not crazy. No, this is what she gets. This is what she deserves. She's trying to keep his kids from him. He just want to be a father. The Black community was the last community to ask for accountability from Kanye West. The last community. They were still, I would see the pictures of, you know, his school, Donda. There were fully Black children in that school with fully Black mothers and fathers that put their children in that school. I think it's very hard for the Black community to separate themselves from certain artists. Very hard. I mean, you know, I think back to like Bill Cosby, and even though Kanye has not done anything on the level of Bill Cosby, but to this day, if you mention like that, they put Bill Cosby in jail, you will have Black people say, oh, well, they went too hard on him because he was a Black man. And then I have one person that I know who will bring up Harvey Weinstein. Look how long it took them to catch him. Yeah, well, no, when people told about Harvey Weinstein, they put him in jail too. Like it was an equal process, I feel, in my mind. But I feel like sometimes Black people are the last people to hold their own accountable. So when everyone was saying, Julia, you should have listened to Black women, you should have listened to what they were saying, we were not on one accord. The voice was not unified. It was not like when he made anti-Semitic comments. And I think anybody who denies that was not paying attention. And I think it's unfair to ask somebody who's on the outside of the culture. She says she's got Black friends, but maybe they weren't telling her. Maybe they were just like, I'll take a Birkin. Thank you, Kanye. Thank you. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? You never know what was happening in her own personal circles. But I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting study. I think it's interesting that she's following the road she's following, and I'll be interested to see what her content looks like when she finally does return to the app, if she returns at all. I think she will. I think she will. But we'll have to see. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, thank you for watching.